we know that they are very well able to indeed.
But YouTube now work tonight.
No, yes, man, it's working in a short while.
Oh, you said it is working a short while.
Yes.
No, he said it will be working in a short while.
In fact, it might very well be working as we speak now. All right. Let me use this opportunity to welcome those of us who are in the platform this evening, the Zoom platform, as we discuss the matter of child abuse. It is still to be defined, although we know what it is because we see it happening in and around us. And amid the kinds of crime that we're experiencing in Jamaica, among them is the crime of child abuse. So let me welcome all the ministers that are online, Holiness Christian Church ministers and other ministers from elsewhere who are joining us tonight in this interesting topic and will be discussing it with us. It's indeed a pleasure to have you online discussing this rather interesting topic, and we're looking forward to a lively discussion. We also would like you to know this little fella is disturbing me. You see this little fella? Look at him. It's interesting that he's calling me when we're talking about child abuse. That's my grandson. Son, I'll have to call you. I'll probably have to speak back to you. I'm doing a program, and I don't want to emotionally abuse you. So let me just ask you kindly to give Alpa some break. All right, son? Bless you. Okay. Isn't he sweet? Unexpected, but quite fitting. So we want to discuss the topic tonight and welcome those persons who are here. As I said before, the ministers of the Holiness Christian Church and other ministers. My friend Gary from the United Church is present. Other persons in the diaspora, other persons also in the denomination, outside of the denomination, and just representing different organizations that are present with us tonight. We have some resource persons, and we will be featuring them on, in fact, on our platform. You will see them together on a panel, so to speak. So I will, in fact, just spotlight myself first, and then I'll ask them to join me one at a time. So we have also from the Victim Services Division, Elspeth Madden, and she is, I saw her just now. Yes, there she is. And this ministry means a lot to me for reasons that some of you might know. And so I have to behave myself tonight because this lady will take my name back to where I don't want her to take it. So it's great to have her. She's from the Victim Services Division. We have also from Child Protection and Family Service Agency, Lisa Broomfield. And I'm looking, and there she is. Hi, Lisa.
Good evening, everybody.
Yes, I'm adding you.
Thanks for having me, Bishop.
It is great having you again.
Good evening.
Yes, you know, I'll tell them about that. I'll tell them, and definitely most have to tell them about that. Why should we exempt ourselves from that? Later on, we'll be joined by Inspector Florence Clark from Sissoko, and we have on the platform tonight, though not on Zoom, Betty and Blaine from Hear the Children Cry, and we'll be having quite a time. So we want you to know that tonight we really are in for all that there is for us to understand and know. Well, in my research, and I normally keep my phone on for somebody to call me to tell me something that I need to know, but you know, they have to tell me in the room. And all questions for the time being, we're going to ask you to put it in the chat. We'll be referring to in a short while. But for the time being, our two panelists are here, and I'm going to read from the internet a definition that I have that I would like to wrap our minds around before they do their presentation for us. Child abuse, it says, is when a parent or caregiver, whether through action or failing to act, cause injury, death, emotional harm, or risk of serious harm to a child. There are many forms, it says, of child maltreatment, including neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse, exploitation, and emotional abuse. It also says that there are 6 types of abuses, and you will, of course, divest and dissect some of these, dismiss them if they are to be dismissed, and explain them as we speak. And then I'll be asking Elspeth Madden to speak first from the Victim Services Division. What she does, she will tell us, and how do they interrelate to that. And then, of course, we have from the Child Protection Family Services Agency, Lisa Bloomfield, and she will indeed make a presentation and tell us what they're all about and how they are a part of the whole process. The 6 different types of abuse, it says, are physical, sexual, verbal stroke emotional, mental stroke psychological, financial, and economic. And then it says cultural identity is one of the 6 abuses. Good evening, everyone. And there are indeed some children who are watching. I see Tyrone Terrell and a group of persons around him, and JNCH and a number of children. So they are watching. So it is rated, it's not rated, it's open for children to be a part of what it's all about. So let me ask then social worker Elspeth Madden to speak to us.
Thanks, Reverend Bailey. Good night, everyone. Okay, as you heard, I'm Elspeth Madden. I'm from the Victim Services Division, where I work as a social worker. And my job is to counsel persons who are victims of crime. And because of that, I have a lot of experience with abuse. So victimization of children is a serious and pervasive issue in our society. It is present in families, and it is not uncommon in institutions where adults form mentoring and nurturing relationships with adolescents, including schools, religious organizations, sports, and social organizations. Those who survive are often left not only with physical wounds, but also with psychological wounds that may never heal. And this is where the Victim Services Division comes in to provide healing and justice to all victims of crime. These are wounds that exact both a profound personal and social cost. Resolving the plague of sexual abuse in this country means going beyond the immediate headlines. We have to return to the days of it. The days of it takes a community to raise a child, meaning every single Jamaican cares and gets involved. At Victim Services Division, we saw 2,667 children in 2020, and between January and March of 2021, we have already seen 655 children. While some of these children are seen for behavioral issues, the majority are cases of abuse. Sexual abuse tops the list, ranging from sexual intercourse with a person under the age of 16, rape, incest, sexual grooming and touching, child trafficking, and so on. Physical abuse would be next, and we find that most children who are physically abused are also victims of emotional abuse and sometimes neglect. Every form of abuse has far-reaching effects on children. Children, as a result of sexual abuse, have become promiscuous, addicted to sex, and very mature in sexual behavior, whilst remaining immature in other areas, such as socially and emotionally. In the case of rape, sometimes children are abducted parents and they end up being raped at the place where they went to. Sometimes they are raped when they go to use the outside bathroom. I have clients who either go in and find a male waiting for them, or while bathing, a male forces his way into the bathroom through on them.
Miss Madden, Miss Madden, just a minute.
Usually,
Can
it
you,
is someone that they know.
Miss Madden, I
The
want to kind of,
community therefore doesn't appear to be as safe.
I want to synchronize your presentation with it, with the slides, but I think I might be ahead of you or something.
Brother
Okay.
Reverend Bishop Bailey, those are my slides.
Oh, those are not hers. That's okay.
No, that's my
No.
presentation.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go right ahead.
All right. All right. So the community doesn't appear to be as safe as it once was. And so gang rape, we find, is pervasive as well. And we see 13-year-olds being raped by as much as 15 men, one after the other. And the list goes on. One of the very noticeable things since the onset of COVID is the increase in incestuous relationships. And what has made it worse is the seeming norming of behavior, as previously there would be remorse, but not now. We're not seeing any remorse at all, as brother and sister are not seeing anything wrong with that behavior. For them, it's normal, yet these behaviors are also resulting in pregnancy. A 12-year-old girl told me recently that when herself and her brother decided that they would have sex, she did not think anything was wrong with it, and she never ever thought that she could become pregnant. And become pregnant, she did. Of course, as well is the emotional abuse and neglect that we're seeing. Neglect is any serious disregard for a child's supervision, their care, or discipline. It includes the failure of a caregiver to provide for a child's basic needs, abandonment, and exposing a child to danger. Too often, children go outside of the family at the promise of affection, attention, and even something to eat. The problem is a cyclical one, because what happens is some parents fall prey to socialization and economic factors. Some honestly don't know how to talk to their children, much less to listen to them, simply because they had received the same treatment when they themselves were children. So a child may ask a parent a question and receive no answer. They are ignored except to be told to do something for which sometimes they weren't taught. So when they mess up, and the outcome is that they're humiliated and constantly criticized. Some children never hear a kind word, nor have positive feelings expressed towards them. And unfortunately, some children have parents who are also absent from home quite often, absent for days and sometimes absent all day. Children now have to fend for themselves, and in doing so find themselves in less than welcome situations because they're hungry or they're simply starving for companionship. What can you do? Report, report, report. Based on the calls that come into us, we recognize that some persons fear for their lives if they report abuse. I'm saying to you today, please report it. You don't have to give your name when you call to make a report. This ensures that you do your part in fighting this scourge. What can the church do? The church can be the safe place. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry about that. The church can be the safe place that persons can run to. Persons need to know they won't be condemned, they won't become the source of gossip, and that their situation will be dealt with in confidentiality. If you don't attend that church, you should feel safe enough to run to them for help, because I believe that is what Jesus himself would want. Remember, he said, "Suffer the little children to come to me." Also, provide ongoing parent training workshops. The truth is, some persons were not taught, and parenting was poorly modeled to them. Neither do they have positive and encouraging support. From my experience, for most persons, learning the correct way of parenting is welcoming. There are two things I want to leave you that I want you to remember. One, Child abuse is societal and it's a cultural problem. And as such, we should all get involved to end this. It should never, ever be an attitude that says, as long as it's not my child. One never knows if, God forbid, it becomes your child. Secondly, it should never, ever hurt to be a child. When do you start being a child? Age 2, 4, 7, 8? So how do you explain semen in the diaper of a child? How do you explain a baby coughing up semen repeatedly? Many of our children who fall prey to abuse have no idea what being a child looks like. These are the earth-shattering Jamaican realities that we are faced with at the Victim Services Division. So given the time constraints, I'm going to stop here and I'll be happy to respond to any questions about what the VSD does and what we experience. Thank you so much.
Wow, you have me stunned. And I know that information is going to repeat it in some places. So I want to put in perspective, when do you come in the picture of child abuse?
Okay, so we
your
come in
organization, yes.
Right, our organization comes into the picture when, most often, when there is a referral. The courts refer the child, CPFSA refers the child, SISOCA, the police, children's home, a school. We come in, that's when we come in to provide the therapeutic support. But there are times when we are contacted sometimes immediately by the police because we're needed to help settle the client emotionally so that they can move forward before entering into the other stages that usually come before us.
So you are after the fact? And
yes, we're after the fact, but we also are before the fact because we do educational programs as well. So we do go into schools, we do forums, and we do lots of educational activities that help to track. The whole aim of that is to prevent.
Yes.
So we have programs, we have programs, we have cultural research, socialization, where we take at-risk children out for a whole day, and we just love on them, and we also just teach them how to protect themselves, and we hear from them about the pain and the trauma that they themselves are going through. We have a program for schools where we go in for a few weeks and we hold one of the programs which we call SIPs, and we have a program called Overcomers, sexually abused teenage girls. So we do have some programs that have been very successful.
But then when you begin to work with a victim, is there a time span, or you work until what happens?
Okay, so we usually try for a period of maybe 6 sessions, but the truth is that it's not hard and fast because each person is different. So we have to work with the individual at the pace that they're going, because you can't rush healing. So we have to be able to be flexible to work with them, because the whole aim is that we want them to leave us healed.
But you have nothing to do with the offender, do you?
No, not the victim services.
Wow. I might have to get back to your statistics. Well, Lisa Bromfield, if you are from the Child Protection and Family Services Agency.
Correct.
Do you have your presentation, or you want me to do it for you? I could give you a shared screen.
If you guide me to set it up, yes.
All right. Well, maybe it's quicker if I just do it and you tell me. I know when to change slides, since I'll be following you from the very beginning, right?
Okay.
All right. So let me get you on right there, and I presume that's where you are, right?
All right. Yes. You can move to the second and third slides quickly. All right. So basically, that's the definition of child abuse, and Bishop Bailey already gave us a definition. I won't go into that. But basically, if in a layman's term, child abuse is where a child has been hurt.
All right.
And of course,
could you tell us maybe when do you come in the picture? Or you want me to tell me that afterwards?
All right. So If persons know or suspect that a child is being abused, whatever the format is, they will make a report, and that is mandatory by law. They make a report to our ARM, National Children's Registry, and then it is taken from there. Investigations are done. It may go to court, or it may be a case where the persons may need parenting skills training. After court, the court may determine whether the child is to remain at home on a supervision order, whether the child is to go to a facility or to go to a family friend or so. The court makes that decision. And so the child enters whatever program based on whatever the outcome of the court is.
All right, I'm good now. You can go right ahead in your presentation.
All righty. So in layman's terms, I'm not going to go into that, but basically child abuse is any ill treatment or anything done to a child that will hurt the child in layman's terms. Yes. So there are different types of abuse. I'm not going to go through all of them. I think we pretty much have an understanding of most of them. All right, but I want to focus on the last two lines. Child labor. We see basically we're in our society, it is kind of part of our culture that children from very early are sent out to earn some sort of income to assist the family. And in truth, nothing is wrong if children learn to do little errands, chores, and they get little pocket money from it. But we find too many children who act responsibility of providing for families at a different level. Eh? All right, cyberbullying and sexting are new. They come with the technology age. And what we find is that, especially in the high schools in Jamaica here, not necessarily in North America or the more advanced countries, right here in Jamaica, we find that the young people, they will have their girlfriend, their boyfriend, they feel they're in love. And so, unfortunately, we have become a society that's over-sexualized. And a lot of our youngsters, unfortunately, are sexually exposed. So they feel they're in love and they begin to exchange pictures, sexual pictures of themselves with each other. That basically is sexting. So it comes from two words, sex and texting, all right? Of course, that is not allowed. It's not acceptable. It's not even legal for a child to do that. Eh? All right. The other thing now is cyberbullying, where persons use cyberspace, social media to bully somebody else. So they would put, post things about somebody else that are demeaning, degrading, trying to tarnish the person's reputation to embarrass them. Now, that is coupled with sexting sometimes, because when the boy and the girl, they fall out of love, lo and behold, they will have a phone with, or whatever device, with compromising pictures of the person they used to be in a relationship with. And so the sexting turns into cyberbullying because whatever pictures are posted. So all of these are included in types of child abuse. May I ask you to go and move the screen? Next slide, please.
Yes.
All right, now this basically is data that has been reported to the National Children's Registry. And that's our arm of, that's an arm of the Child Protection and Family Services Agency. So in 2018, we found that there were some 10,000 reports of child abuse. 2019, some 13,000. And in 2020, we found a 29% decline, some 9,000 reported cases of child abuse. Mind you, there is speculation that because the children are at home, they're not going to school, most cases of abuse, or some of the cases of abuse, are really reported or the reporting is facilitated by the schools, the guidance counselors. So because most children are home, there's speculation that the reports may not be coming in as much. All right, but to give a breakdown of 2020, next slide, please. All right, now you notice that the figure before for 2020 in the previous slide showed a figure of 9,853. But if you look at the total here, it says 19,000. What has happened is that some of the cases, they overlap in terms of category of abuse. So one child may both be sexually abused and physically abused. So both are recorded here. So in terms of reported cases of sexual abuse in 2020, we have some 2,400 cases. Physical abuse, 2,500. Behavioral problems, some 5,200. 4,000 odd cases of neglect. Emotional abuse, some 1,100 cases. 299 cases of child labor were reported. 23 cases of child trafficking. And in terms of otherwise, persons, children in need of care and protection, we have some 3,304 cases that were reported to us. And that's just a quick glance of some of the signs of a child who is abused, maybe withdrawn from adults, limited eye contact, inappropriate response to pain. The child is in pain and they're happy. That is so inappropriate. Or the child may be inflicting pain on themselves. And for the average healthy person, we can't identify with that. That's not normal. You know, child may have fractures and so on. Could you move on, please? All right, I just want to make reference to 3 cases I personally have dealt with over several years. I recall a case, and I'll call her Mary. She was sexually abused by her father. Her mom had migrated, left her and daddy alone in the house. And the father began to sexualize her. She told her friend at school. The friend invited her to church, and her mom, who she told, took her to the police station, and she came into our care. There's Jane, who had her second pregnancy at age 15, and her pregnancy, her spouse was a community don, and he would beat her up. And so how she came to our attention, she had to be hospitalized because in her second pregnancy, her spouse beat her up badly, and the hospital picked up her case and they referred the matter to us. And her perception was that he loves me. That's what the child told me. He loves me because he gives me food. And she didn't really have that. A lot of things were happening in her family of origin. Her father was not there. She was victim of neglect. Her father had a good job, but he was not providing. And her mom had passed. Sarah reported herself, basically. She attempted to place herself in a place of safety. And she was just a little girl. And I couldn't understand. Well spoken to the child. And she said her mom was threatening to chop off her head. And I had to question her at length to get an idea of what on earth she was trying to talk about. And I was saying to her, but you know, as Jamaican parents, we are very dramatic and we're colorful in our language, but she was insistent. Her mom was trying to cut off her head or planned to. Her mom was overseas, but when she came to Jamaica, she went cut off her head, and she'd like to please be in a place of safety so that the mother doesn't access her when she returns to Jamaica. So after saying to her, all right, has your mom ever physically, abused you where you have marks? She just casually said, oh yes, she used the iron and burn me. I was like, what? Yes, she used the iron and burn her. And sure enough, she had a burn mark. I took her into my manager's office and her guardian was present. She lifted her skirt, showed on her thigh a burn mark that she got about 5 years before. Her mom had burned her with a steam iron, and you saw all the holes in her leg, the pattern of the iron. So these are some of the things that our children are going through, and it is really heartrending. Could you, next slide, please. All right, now we all have a duty to report those persons considered by law under the Child Care and Protection Act as a prescribed person, meaning persons who have a duty of care, or they have some responsibility or some sort of professional obligation to a child, whether they operate, whether a teacher, guidance counselor, nurse, doctor, they operate a daycare, or whatever it is. If they know or suspect that a child is being abused, they need to make that report. Next slide, please. Further, the law says anybody, not just the prescribed person, but anybody who suspects that a child is being abused or knows. So it's not just a matter that you have to go and do investigation to prove that the child is being abused. You have that hunch. You know that something is not adding up. You might not see the marks. The child might not say, well, whomever, my stepfather sexualizing me. Or you might not see somebody holding the child head and banging it on the wall or beating the child with a pot, but you might hear the screams and you might see the bruises. You realize something is wrong. Whether or not you're a prescribed person, you live in the society. This is our Jamaica. All the children belong to us. You have a moral and legal responsibility to make a report, all of us. Next slide, please. Next slide. All right, now, so it is illegal to abuse a child in Jamaica or anybody. And under the Child Care and Protection Act, persons who abuse a child can be charged with cruelty to child. There are fines. So the perpetrator of abuse on conviction in a circuit court may be fined or be imprisoned with hard labor for up to 5 years or both. Before a resident magistrate on summary conviction, the perpetrator may be fined up to $1 million or be imprisoned with hard labor or both the fine and the imprisonment. And in terms of the person who fails to make a report, something is going on or they suspect, they also can be criminally charged. On summary conviction, they may be fined up to $500,000 or be imprisoned up to 6 months or both. What the law is saying, we have a responsibility to take care of our children. We cannot hide and hush hush. That is not helping us. At the end of the day, you can't feel like your children are safe and the neighbor's children you do business. Because guess what? The little boy next door who is batter bruised by his father or whomever may just grow up one day and want to marry your daughter, and how he knows to relate is to batter bruise. All right, we all live in the same society, and what goes around comes around. So where do you make a report? You make a report to the National Children's Registry. I hope all of us can see the screen right there. The numbers are 888-PROTECT or 888-776-8328 or 876-908-2132. Our WhatsApp number is 878-2882. All right, so, or you can email report@childprotection.gov.jm, or you can walk into any parish office of the Child Protection and Family Services Agency. There's an office in every parish. And so you can walk in, there's a registration officer there, they will take the report. We know that persons are afraid to give reports because these, in reality, is our serious times. We're not going to pretend that they aren't, but you don't have to give your name, your contact information. You do have that choice. But if you are choosing, let's say you call in to make a report, if you're choosing to give your contacts, your name, to say, I am Mary Jane and I see so and so, you will get what is called an ID number, right? And that is your proof, your legal proof that you did make, and nobody else has access to that number. That is your proof that you did make the report. All right, but if you're choosing not to give your name, you have that choice. You can make your report without saying, my name is Licia Bromfield. You don't have to say that if you don't wish. I have made several reports, many, and I remember one particular case. It was a very hot case. Persons were threatened. Persons were threatened. And I recall going to lengths to make that report. I had my friend buy a cell phone, a cheap cell phone. I called the number. Well, I didn't exactly lie. They asked my name. I wanted the ID number. I said, you can call me so-and-so, you know. And I gave a name, an alias. And I didn't lie, Bishop.
Review sentence on that one.
I didn't lie. I didn't lie. I said, you can call me, whatever, you know. And I got the ID number and I recorded it, right? And when I finished, my friend who worked at one of the phone companies said, oh, they can trace it from the phone, you know. And the money I spent on the phone, I left it right there on the ground and drove off to a different parish. I went to Lens. So if we really care, yes, we understand threats are real, but we have to do something. You know, we all live in the same society and we have to do our part to help make a difference.
Wow. Thank you so very much. So your job is you're informed and you're an informer as it relates to.
So yes, you could say so. Yes, and it is varied. Our basic role is social work, of course. In terms of the different programs we offer, they are wide: adoption, foster care, family reintegration. Currently, I'm at the institution desk, so I am assigned to different childcare facilities. You have the child and family support unit, which try to prevent the certain matters reaching the court. If the intervention can be done before, then that is preferred.
Do you have the power of arrest? Do you have the power of arrest?
No, we don't. No, we don't.
Elspeth Madden, do you have the power of arrest?
Yes, she does.
No, actually, Lisa, we don't.
Well, online tonight, the next person we'll be hearing from is somebody who definitely has the power of arrest. Inspector Florence Clark, and then I'm looking for her as soon as her camera is on, and she'll be speaking to us where she comes in the picture. There she is. Hi, Mrs. Clark. Inspector, you are the real big woman around the place.
Hi, Mr. Bailey. The name is Florine, not Florence.
Oh, Florine? Florine. Florine, right?
Right.
Is my mother naming up Florence, you know, that's why I'm gonna mix it up. Sorry.
Okay then.
Florine Clark, you have the power of arrest. Inspector, work with SIXOCA, that entity that came into being contemporarily. And you are the person who is the first responder often to business of child abuse. Tell us when you come in the picture, how you come in the picture. Just give light in our darkness, we beseech thee.
All right, good night, everyone. So, SIXOCA, the Center for the Investigation of Sexual Offenses and Child Abuse. And of course, when you hear SIXOCA and you hear sexual offenses and child abuse, it doesn't negate from the local police taking on the role of investigation. So whilst we focus mostly on the serious crimes such as rape and other serious offenses, there are other offenses that once they are reported to the local police station, they do investigate them. So CISOCA came about from a name change because, of course, prior to 2006, what we had was the rape unit. But of course, with respect for our victim and institutions looking at how to bring about change to for persons to be more focused on the work that you're supposed to do and for us to show more appreciation to our clients. Then the name CISOCA was penned and the department was moved from the community relations, the then community relations department, to the criminal investigation branch. So CISOCA is a part of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. And like I said, our main responsibility is to investigate sexual offenses and child abuse. Also to ensure that one of our main focus is public education so that persons out there who are victims or Jamaica at large can understand that there's a space for them, there's an area that care about what happens to them, and in all of that we also interact with other agencies, for example, the Women's Center. And besides the Women's Center, we do interact with the Child Protection and Family Services agencies, right? Who assist with the intervention when we are dealing with our clients. I must let you also know that we do have a health center at our headquarters, that's 3 Woodven Road, Kingston 10. And so when our victims come in, the first point of care is where we have an intake desk and there the preliminary interview is done there. And from there we do an assessment as to whether or not, what is the type of case based on what the law says. And from there, depending on the urgency of the situation, it is either medical or to the CPFSA office, which is also situated at 3 Woodven Road, Kingston 10, right? So it's for us to really share what really happened with a particular case. It depends on the case of it's in itself. So if it is that we have, if we were speaking of a case of rape, then there are certain things that we need to take in consideration. If it's a situation where we have a victim and the rape is a recent one and the person warrants immediate health care, then that's what we are going to take in consideration first. But generally, we do our intake desk. You're referred to the medical officer. We do have 5 medical officers on board. We have a resident doctor who is Dr. Cheryl Burke, and she's there on an 8 to 4 shift each day, right, to assist with the medical aspect. Of course, CISOCA takes care when it comes on to dealing with our victims and ensure that when you are dealing with exhibits, that the chain of evidence is something that we uphold, the integrity of our chain of evidence. So that is something that we really deal with in understanding what are the different areas that we move from and how we handle the evidence that comes in. How is it that we deal with evidence that in a situation that happens within a 72-hour period versus something that happens in a year or in some months past or years past, right? Because of course we do know that even if an offense occurred, let's say 35 years ago, you can still come in and make your report to CISOCA. Now, intervention, like I said, is done with CPFSA, and we do have cases that we refer to as sexual intercourse with a person under 16. And of course, this comes from the the Sexual Offences Act of 2009, right, which guides our action as to how we look at cases based on the information coming into us. So like we shorten it to say sexual intercourse with a person under 16, we say SI 16, right? And so when those cases come to us, CPFSA has a role to play for the victims, right? Our suspects are handled differently. Now I must also share that when treating with those two, we do have the diversion program that we are guided by in terms of dealing with our children when they commit offenses. So that is a program we do know that seeks to divert the child from the criminal aspect into helping the child to change its behavior, going through counseling, as you say, children, and to put them, to have them being regularized back into the society. Now, in addition to that, we do at times go on the scene to ensure that whatever it is that is told to us, that we can capture that to assist us with our court cases, because we do, after we compile our case files, it is sent to the divisional case registry, who they do an assessment to ensure that it is whatever the policy states in terms of the Sexual Offences Act. Whatever is there, that's what is used to guide our actions. And then these files are prepared and submitted to the different courts, depending on the offenses. Of course, you do know that we send cases to the parish courts. So for example, Harpatry Court, the Children's Court, which is the family court, and also the circuit court or the Supreme Court, right? And other courts, of course, depending on what is determined by the particular case. So like I said before, we investigate sexual offenses and child abuse, and our local station do take on minor cases like, for example, indecent assault and some other offenses that are classified as minor offenses and can be investigated by the local police.
Thank you so very much. I'm re-adding these ladies to the spotlight. And I have a friend of mine who is online. She won't be able to come on video the last time we spoke, but then we hear her in the news, and she is passionate about what is happening to our children. And I tell you, if I let her speak on Bridal tonight, she take my program to 9:30. But so I won't be giving her a lot of time. But Betty and Blaine, no strange name, a household name in Jamaica, work with the children, is passionate and concerned about the children's business. I'm going to ask her to come and tell us what her organization does when she comes in the picture. So far, the Victim Services Division, they deal with the victims, the children who have been. Sisoka, you deal with the criminals, the persons who have been accused, the accused person, you put them right to jail. Although I know that very often it is...
We deal with both victims and criminal, and well, we can't holistically say criminals, because we won't classify our children in that way. So we're saying we deal with children and criminals.
Okay,
right?
I understand you so very well.
I share with you about the child diversion program.
Yes, sure.
And program, when we have children placed on those programs, even though they're coming as suspects, we don't classify them as criminals.
Excellent. And then the Child Protection and Family Services Division, Lisa Broomfield, she is the informed and the informer, and she knows how to spend her time and money and effort to go in search of, to find persons who are accused and let them report them to our sister Clark, to Inspector Clark, and so on. Betty.
Yes, Bishop. Good evening.
Good night to you. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, and good night to everybody.
You spend all day today dealing with the business. Talk to me. When did you come in the picture?
Okay, so I just want to first of all, Bishop, say Happy Child Month to all of our children. I know it's a tough time for them. This COVID-19 has really created so many problems in terms of our children having to be at home, confined in their communities and their homes. And we were distressed from day one, when we heard schools were closing last year, because we said, wow, what are we going to do as advocates? Because a lot of our work we do through the schools. And even when we have to meet parents, we do it through the schools, typically, So we were concerned, and we continue to be concerned. But the presenters have done an excellent job in providing for people on this forum the background about abuse, child abuse in this country. I want to congratulate the three of them, an excellent job in providing that important overview, the statistics. here is what I think the little I can offer to this conversation.
So tell us the name of your organization.
Hear the Children's Cry.
Right.
And Hear the Children's Cry has been around a long time. It's interesting we're talking about abuse, because about 18 years ago or so, when we first started, we started out of a crisis, I remember the 1 week, 8 Jamaican children were murdered. The children in Greenwich Farm, some in the rural Jamaica. It was 18 years ago that I remember, and we gathered the children together, those along Spanish Town Road, all the schools, primary schools, high schools, and we marched, and the children marched. And out of that crisis 18 years ago, we decided, you know what, we can't just talk and be just watching the children being brutalized in this way. So I just want to say that this issue of abuse against children has been a feature of this country for far too long. This is why we have no more space on that child monument. So here is the little I can contribute. And Hear the Children's Cry is a non-governmental organization, right? We run a lot of programs, but our main work for the past, I would say 12 years, is we've been focusing on missing and exploited children, largely, but we run other kinds of programs. I just want to say that for the little I can add, because these ladies have done an excellent job in providing the background and so on, statistics and so on. The little I can add is perhaps from the point of view of an advocate. And here is what concerns me. We are a small country of somewhere a little under 3 million people. We have, I think the youth population in Jamaica is a little under 1 million children. I think somewhere in the region of 970,000 children between 0 to 18 years that live in this country. We have a lot of legislation to protect our children, maybe about 12 pieces or so, different types of laws to protect kids. We have NGOs like ours working with children. We have the Office of the Children's Advocate. We have CPFSA, we have victim support. We have all these organizations in a small country with a relatively small population of children. So you have to step back and ask yourself the question, how is it with all that we have in Jamaica, things don't seem to be getting better? I mean, I support the work all of my colleagues here are doing, and I depend on them because I have to call victim support when I need help, CPFSA, CISOCA. So these are my colleagues. But I think we're going to have to step back and ask ourselves, how is it that with all of the agencies that we have in this country, not to mention government ministries, right? How is it still in this situation in Jamaica? And let me just say this, there are countries that you don't see no crime against children, man. And I'm not talking about totalitarian states. I'm not even referring to China or Cuba, where we can compare to be like comparing apples to oranges, right? I'm talking about countries where you don't see some of these kinds of crimes. And even this recent case of the 13-year-old and the buggery and so on, I've never heard a case like that, even in America. I've never, really. And a case like that probably would be given a lot of publicity. So again, I'm asking the question, and my colleagues are also advocates. I think we're all advocates. How is it that a country as small as we are, with a small, look at the children in state care. There are less than 5,000 children in state care, something like 4,700 kids. Are you telling me that we can't look after 4,700 children properly in this country? What are we saying? So there's something radically wrong. And this is where we have to step back now and ask ourselves the question, what is missing here? We have the laws, we have agencies, we have NGOs, we have an Office of the Children's Advocate, right? We have all of these things, and yet this is our discussion tonight. This is our discussion. Okay, so here is what I want to, here is what I want to focus on, Bishop.
Yes.
What are the solutions? Now, I'm very concerned about the increased violence against children and the bizarre and brutal nature of some of these crimes. We never used to see some of these crimes before. Many of them are being committed by teenagers, teenage boys for the most part, and young men. And so you have to ask yourself, here is one of the gaps we need to begin to study, do the psychiatric and psychological evaluations and assessments of who these perpetrators are. Some of them are already incarcerated. Some of them are juveniles. Some are adult males. Do we have pedophiles in Jamaica? And who are they? What's their backgrounds? Where do they come from? Where did they live? Who are their family members? We need to say the same for the teenagers. Now, look, violence doesn't fall out of the sky. It starts in early childhood, and it's a developmental process. And I think if we're serious about this, we need to begin to drill down about how children are born and raised in this country, where they live, who they live with, who are the parents. We need a youth audit now in this country, and we need to begin to study this problem, because we are not a huge country. We're not a huge country, and we don't have that many kids. So I'm just saying, and Bishop, before we run out of time.
Yes, we're out of
time. Yes. I just want to say, we've been making a public call to our Prime Minister. And we have been saying, sir, we want to ask you to bring these ladies that made this presentation this evening and others who are working in the trenches, who know the problems, who have the solutions. Bring a few people together that if we came up with one single solution that could shift the status quo of our children, make it, in other words, since we have the Child Care and Protection Act, and we had the Ananda Alert, I don't think we have had any major shift, something that would shift the situation for children in a positive way in Jamaica. If we came up with one single thing that we could do.
Okay, one single thing that we could do. Hold it for a minute, Betty. Ladies, we are almost out of time. I wonder if you could get your bosses to give you permission to reappear next week, Tuesday. There are a number of questions in the chat room. Prevention, I'm aware that you have frustrations in doing your job effectively. I would love to ask you to explore what are your major frustrations in being effective in doing your job. Orientation, education, also the church. I notice you're being kind, except for Elspeth Madden, who make mention of the fact that the churches need to come on board, and I fully agree. And some years ago, that's how I met Licia Brumfield. The church took a bold step, and because of that, we have minimized, if not totally eliminate the cases in our church setting. I want to tell you about that one, in fact, because I was very instrumental in leading a team on a retreat for 3 days on the North Coast, where we developed three instruments. But we are 4 instruments. Glad you are really on board. 4 instruments, but we are out of time. Is it possible? Do you think it is possible, any at all, to obtain permission from your bosses? Well, Miss Elspeth Madden, I know who to talk to about you, right? And I think you'll be kind enough.
You certainly do. You certainly do.
And my brother is kind, and I'm sure he will have a talk and see what he can do as the person in charge of that. And your other, one of your other senior persons here too. I see the Reverend McFarlane online too. Lisa Brumfield, you think we can nail it down for next week? I think this is at a place where we can't leave it. It wouldn't do justice to rushing through, because I want to hear your major frustration. You're better saying that if we could achieve one more goal, maybe prevention. I hear the Reverend Gary Harriet asking about prevention. I hear education. I hear orientation. I hear socialization. I hear I know, for example, that Inspector Clark on the matter of conviction, how do you, what kind of problems are you having securing conviction for persons who have been accused? Is there a register like in some other countries where we register sex offenders, where you can go on the internet and find their names, and if they're going to move to a community, the whole community knows that that person who live at 27 such and such has gone to prison for that? What are the pros and cons? We'll have to secure permission, but can you make a temporary closing statement and said, I'll be back and I intend to share what? But I'm begging you, we have to come back for this.
I'd have to confirm, Bishop.
Yes, confirm and let me know. And Elspeth, I'm almost 80%.
I will confirm and let you know as well, Bishop.
Maureen, fine. I'm looking forward to that. Betty, maybe
can you kind of send the request again like you did this week?
Tomorrow.
I will inform them that there's a part B. Kindly send the request. Thank you.
I'll do that tomorrow for sure. And of course, I really want to express our thanks. We have been edified, educated, and sensitized. I think what should stand out from tonight, from all that has been said, has better serve as a catalyst to you guys to do your job, and certainly commend you. I want to commend you too. We're on top of things as a country. We are giving it our best shot. I know some of the frustrations, but if nothing else stands out, is the responsibility to those of us who are online, those of us who have heard the gruesome cases, listen to the statistics, and you have listened to the presentation. I think our responsibility has heightened, and we have been sensitized to our responsibility. We must get involved. Every single one of us must get involved in being an eye, an ear, and an informer to protect our innocent children and be able to take it to the very utmost. Now, it might not be enough for you to just to report it. You might have to buy a banger and be prepared to get some information and change the name to protect the humble. But we need to, we have been charged in our various responsibilities, communities, and wherever we are here and abroad to get involved in solving the problem of child abuse. Thank you very much, ladies. God bless you. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week.
Bless you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Bishop.
You are welcome.
Good night, ladies.
Night, night.
Good night, ladies. Good night, Bishop.
Thank you.
Thank you.